Mr. Redmond reported he is now a federal employee working with the census. Ms. Garthy moved to postpone approval of the minutes until the next meeting. No public comment. Reports. Ms. Garthy gave the treasurer's report. The sewer administrator gave his report. He discussed items from his report and mentioned he had submitted a report each month since the meetings were suspended because of the COVID. Essential projects and maintenance were done during the COVID shutdown period of time. The public's been very understanding. Mr. Patmore described the work that was done once the executive order was lifted in May. He has had some difficulty getting tanks pumped because Williams Pumping has been extremely busy. The operation report from IAI, Mr. Kesby reviewed his items from his report. He reported on callouts, repairs, projects, and maintenance. The freeboard is within the target range. The PLC upgrade, the computer program, has been working very well. And there is a new part-time employee. There have been a lot of odor complaints. In the discussion section, in talking about officers, there is only one officer, the chairperson. Jim Redmond has agreed. Jim Redmond's agreed term of 1 year is up. Others on the commission did not feel ready to take over as chairperson at this time. So Mr. Redmond agreed to do it for another year. Action, Mr. Roberts moved to reappoint Jim Redmond as the sewer commission chairperson for another year. Email was received about how to involve the public in sewer commission meetings. Ms. Ock described how the public can attend by Zoom. Zoom has been very effective in involving the public in the township board meetings. And Ms. Ock asked about what neutralizes hydrogen sulfate. The answer is calcium nitrate. Good fact to know. And then it was adjourned. That's the summary.
Thank you very much.
I'll move to approve the minutes of, can't remember the date,
Yeah,
August 7th.
Is there a second?
I second. Frank made the second.
turn that off.
All right, those in favor, Shirley? Shirley in favor or no?
Yes.
All right. All right. Richard? Yes. Or yes. Frank?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The minutes for August 7th, 2020 are approved. Is there any public floating in the background? Not video. Terrific. Shirley, yes?
Steve, I found what Cindy had sent us minutes for March 6th on August 11th. So I just forwarded them to you, but there's some blanks. So there's like blanks on who made motions. So let's do it for next month and I'll work with Cindy on filling in the blanks.
All right.
Okay.
Have we voted on postponing that portion? I don't think we have. I would entertain a motion to postpone approval of the March 6th minutes until.
So moved. Shirley?
A second, please.
I second it, Richard.
That's Richard.
Thank
All
you.
right. Shirley, yes or no?
Yes.
Richard? Yes or no? Frank, yes or no?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, Jim says yes, that's approved unanimously. Thank you all. Shirley, thank you for your report. I have not had a chance to reveal it or review it in depth. Is there anything in particular you'd like to point out on the
report? Sorry, my phone's ringing.
Take a hammer to it.
I would love to. So we have $57,759.10 in the sewer operating fund as of the end of August. And our sewer improvement has $196,539.10 in the checking account. And then we have the sewer CD for the sewer improvement for $201,466.46. Other than that, I think it was just our normal bills. There was one higher bill to, it looks like an electric company, Steve, that I didn't, it was to NUOVE Energy. It was for, out of the sewer improvement for $10,457.
That was for the new Nova filter that we ordered to get the biofilter in
Okay,
service, and we had to pay that ahead of time with the insurance assurance that the warranty would still be covered, but that had to be shipped from Italy, and they wanted payment before they shipped it. So
sure.
we
Okay.
don't like to do that. We don't normally do that, but we need the biofilter very, very bad. And Dave
Sure.
looked all over the world for filter parts, and but it's on the way.
Sounds
and
good.
It's
So
supposed to
that
be here
explains
by
that one.
October 1st.
So other than that, we brought in $26,122 in the sewer in the month of August. And then Steve, I don't know how to put the, on the new sewer program, I do not know how to put the interest penalty on. So I've missed all,
Okay,
I don't know.
I will get in there this weekend and
Okay.
and then I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah, or just leave me a note, like how to do it or something, so I can do it every month. It's not
Okay.
something that we do once, right? It's something that we do every month still?
Correct.
Okay. All right, other than that, I don't really have anything else unless somebody has questions on,
Shirley, are people paying their bills on time? Are we seeing any lag because of people being out of work or so forth?
I haven't really seen that. I thought that we did pretty good. I don't know, Steve, have you run a report lately or?
Not this month yet, but last month it was within our normal, the
That's what I
amount
thought, too.
delinquent was normal. It was in the accounts receivable was in the 30,000 range.
Right,
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Do you have like a general percentage of what our delinquency rate is?
Say that?
Do you have a delinquency rate, like percentage? What we kind of expect as a normal? Do we have that? Like,
Yeah, I look at the amount every month,
mhm.
and it's pretty, I don't know if there's not a percentage that I know that I've talked to an accountant about, but ours, it's pretty consistent. And then every year Shirley and I get together and anything that's more than 6 months actually will go on the tax bill in November. So that's my job, and I was gonna say I have to do it this month, because that starts on August 1st for what was delinquent as of 6 months. So that list, and that list year to year is pretty darn consistent.
So just to clarify, after 6 months, do we put like a tax lien on them?
Once a
Yes.
year,
Once a year? Okay.
yeah.
And what's the cutoff date for that if someone wants to clean their account?
They can actually do it up to the date Shirley puts it on, or right on there. They can pay it up to when the bills go out, right, Shirley?
yeah, so right around the middle of November, when I have to send the bills away to get printed, that's, they can, I can take it on, take it off their tax bill after that.
The,
Once the bills
the-
are printed, it's on the tax bill.
the list is very consistent from year to year. There
same-
are,
Same people.
same people, and I think they believe that they can write it off on their taxes if it's on their tax bill.
Yep.
Jeez. Anything else for Shirley? I will entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second, it's Richard.
Hi, Richard. I need a motion.
Oh, a motion, yeah, sorry. I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report. Richard?
Frank will,
Second that. Thank you. Richard, yes or no?
Yes?
Frank?
yes.
And then Jim votes yes. I'm not going to ask Shirley to vote.
Okay.
So once again, unanimous. All right, sewer administrator. Hello, Steve.
Actually, after June and July, August was for me anyways, we'll hear from David, but it was a relatively normal month and a lot quieter than July and June.
Whatever that is.
Yeah. So, our influent levels were about 10% higher than in 2019, but you remember July was about the same. So it's something I've been watching month to month now to compare from one year to the other. And, I'm looking for trends on infiltration. So it's something that we're watching, but it was about 10% higher in August. But I have been checking meter readings for commercial customers weekly now, and the flows in August were pretty good. I think restaurants are doing pretty good right now. The lagoon level is slightly higher, within half a foot of where it was last year, and it's still within our operational guidelines. David and the guys are doing a great job of keeping the flows going to the drain fields and managing that, managing the lagoon. So as far as operations, as I mentioned before, we're waiting delivery of that screen. I haven't of the biofilter screen, and then they're going to get it installed when it comes in. The aerators, that's my understanding. I haven't went out and looked, but the aerators are in the lagoon. So we're back in service with the 2 aerators that were out of service. There was a IAI, it's an agenda item, but I sent a response to Eagle about the phosphorus levels. We'll go over that. Early in August, late July, there was an alarm issue at the plant. We talked about this last month. We exceeded our maximum daily flow for the first few days of August. And then the transfer switches are in at automatic transfer switches at Duck Lake Road and Pop Road. And that's a big, and the training was done with IAI between the electrician. So that's a big thing. That's off our list now. So now if there's a power failure, it automatically transfers to the generators and starts the generators. Our guys don't have to come and physically pull that switch and start the generator. So that's a big thing, both for operations and for reliability and integrity of the system. So as far as ongoing things, the IAI is getting that. David will report on the odor hydrogen sulfide control. We're still planning and gonna be getting with contractors about lagoon pumping for next spring. That's got to be done. That's part of the issue with the phosphorus that we'll talk about.
Excuse me, Steve. Do you have a date when you're gonna meet with those guys?
No, I don't.
All right.
No. Just as far as administration, I do the meter readings, misdig staking request, that's still pretty steady. There was a new home connected on Juniper Street. And that worked out good. We found the end of the line on Juniper Street pretty easy, and they found our as-built actually worked pretty good on that one. I did a permit for a new home on Cedar Street, part of that Leland condo project. It's going to be going up. I've done a couple as-built for septic tank locations as I do misdig requests. If we don't have an as-built on a septic tank, I go get the measurements. And then this winter I'll sit down and do drawings. I'm getting a lot of questions. The odor complaints, I know in July, in early August, I had a bunch of them, but I haven't had anything since. So as I said before, it's an atmospheric thing. When the air is low and heavy, we get odor complaints, but I haven't got anything in the last few weeks. The Fishtown step stations had to been pumped a couple times this year. Normally, it's never been pumped more than once a year. There's something going on with the grease there that I'm working with Fishtown on getting. They did install a grease trap, but according to David, it might be on the wrong sink. So I got to do some follow up on that.
They've since corrected that.
Yeah. The school, Leland School, the new additions they were going to do there, or they're doing there, the plan was they were going to connect to the existing tanks and there would be nothing, everything would go as it's flowing now. But after they did their elevations and got their additions and floor levels set, they found that they need into both the gym addition and the addition on the southwest side, they need a new connection to our main. So there's no additional flow, but it's going to a different spot. And they're going to be putting in more tanks, which is actually better. So I'm working with the engineers and contractor on that. So it's all at their cost, but it's a change in what they originally had intended to do.
So Steve, do you call that a new tap or no?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's a new connection, but it's not additional fee because the same flow is coming through. It's just in a different spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and they're gonna absorb the cost of doing that.
Yeah, it's at their cost, and it's actually better because we're gonna have more septic tanks to handle the flow than what there was before. And they have a grease trap that they pump out that handles the cafeteria. Frank, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. How many customers do we have? And are they broken down into commercial versus residential?
We have a total of, I don't know the exact number, but it's around 530 customers. And I would have to look, there's a lot of commercial. We have about 50 that are metered customers. And there are a lot of commercial customers. I mean, you call them commercial, like the bank, for instance. They're
Right.
not metered, but they're commercial. So we have commercial metered and commercial not metered. I don't have that number for you. I can get it.
Well, that's
I'll
okay.
report it.
Give me enough. I'm just trying to get a rough idea.
Yeah. And then as we mentioned before, I've got to do the delinquent account list for Shirley, and then she reviews it, and then it goes to the township board. So that's all I have for now, unless there's any questions.
And then Steve, you said something about odor complaints are down over the last month. Was that correct? Where are they coming from primarily when you get odor complaints? Is it coming from homes or like the pump station or where?
Well, I mean, the stations, they emanate odor all the time. But though these are individual homes and they're
Okay.
usually, it's a vent issue. Early last month, late July, I think I distributed 4 or 5 of them charcoal vents that we have
Yeah.
that we supply. They put them on, that people were happy. I found one place on Juniper that had a crack clean out. Top of the clean out was cracked. The lawnmower hit it. That was fixed. And so, like I said, there was a couple days where I got 4 or 5 complaints in late July, and that was because the air was heavy and they were getting usually it's their neighbor's odor from the vent pipes and the wind carries it over. And I haven't gotten any. I think maybe David's got 1 or 2, but it's in the last few weeks, I haven't heard anything about from homeowners.
Thanks.
Steve, are you gonna let Dave take care of the phosphorus question for the things you sent out?
Well, it's on the agenda item. I was gonna,
Okay, wait till then. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for the sewer administrator? I'd entertain a motion to accept his report.
So moved, Shirley.
Yeah.
I'll second. Frank will
I'll second.
second.
Terrific. Shirley, yes or no?
Yes.
Frank, yes or no?
Yes.
Richard, yes or no?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. That's thank you, Steve. I do appreciate it.
well, thank you. I've never had my report accepted like that before.
You know, we're all about helping each other out here, okay? So we want to pat you on the back once in a while, okay?
Thank you.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Ready? I'm working on a split screen here, so we'll see how well this works. So to start out, just cover again, our freeboard is within target range. As Steve described, within our working levels. August for the effluent total phosphorus levels was high, as well as July. As expected, we kind of talked about that last month. It was at 9.89. Far as our monitoring wells, we've always had an issue with D being slow, and we've talked about getting that cleaned. And then for August was one of the quarterlies that they used for the annual sampling as well for monitoring wells. Just means me test for more things is all it means really. But one of our up gradient wells, D is a down gradient well. One of our up gradient wells where we're not limited to any of our samples as far as limitations for overages and whatnot, it was actually clogged off completely. And since I've had discussions with Berg well drilling, from what I find, they're the only ones that'll even take a look at anything like this for what we got. But I'm still in talks with them, been back and forth with them. They're just working out their scheduling. They're going to have to do a site visit just to kind of get an idea of what we got going on here. It's a little different than a normal residential water well. So
Just, can I explain? We've got all them monitor wells out at the plant around the whole system. And they were probably 30 years old. Some of them were part of the original hydrogeological study. So over time, screens they've all got a screen on them at the bottom that lets the groundwater in the actual well. Those over time get either calcium on them or some of them get probably a bio, they could get a bio cover. So it's not unusual to have to clean them with a there's a process that a well driller can use to clean them. So that's what we're talking about doing.
It's kind of unique because I'm learning as I go. One of their first steps would be to drop some acid down it. And I'm not sure if that's something we can do. Steve might have more insight. I don't have a past with this stuff, so I'm learning. But it sounds like basically the wells are a pipe with a molded point that they wrap a screen around and screw to it, and then they shove it down a hole that they drilled. So it's pretty rudimentary, but in order to actually remove the screen and clean it, they would have to literally pull the entire well out. So talking with these guys, I'm going to find out more options and what's viable and what's economical. And within our regulations with the EGLE, I mean, it very well could be simpler just to pop a new well if that's something that the EGLE says would be okay. Otherwise, we'll go forth with trying to clean it, which might match the price. So that's something we're going to go over, and it's scheduled to happen. They're under the understanding that we test again in November. So we're going to try to get some options and hopefully try to get those flowing before then.
And it's not like your house well that the screen is a separate thing they drop in that you can just reach down and pull it out and clean it. This is a integral part of the well, but like Dave said, they're relatively cheap things because they're not usually grouted or so.
When you pull the pipe out of the ground, it's just a hole. And at that point, you could easily just slide a new one down instead of trying to fiddle with a screen that's just tapped into place, so.
Do these have metal casing, or is there a casing at all, or?
Most of them are 2-inch galvanized pipe, just threaded pipe, just like you would see anywhere else. And that's kind of all they use for the smaller 2-inch stuff. They're technically shallow wells, none of them go over 80 some feet.
So
they just
acid down there though, you said? What kind of acid,
If I had to guess in my experience, I would say it's like a muriatic acid, but regardless, it's going to affect pH in the ground, which is going to affect the chemical sustainability and what you can measure, and how the results are affected by it are going to change significantly. So I would assume that the EGLE would probably side on don't drop acid down there, especially a month before you take samples. But I don't know. They could possibly say, oh yeah, it happens all the time. That's standard. Absolutely, drop some acid down there. I'm just not sure.
Any written procedure for this at all?
Not that I can find.
Standardized procedure? Okay.
Not that I can find anywhere.
I just made a note. Gosling Zubach, our engineers, they're installed the newer ones. So I'm gonna, which I haven't done that yet, but I'm gonna ask them if they've come across this before.
Yeah, I'd be curious on the standard process, like Frank's asking, and along with just maybe what they got for history in the past.
These wells just sit. They're not used every day to get the flow through them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're only pumped 4 times a year. So it would be easy for them to get calcium or iron. Galvanized pipes, not a real stable material for sitting in the wet environment. So it's not something that, it's not, I'm not surprised.
Wells are sitting there not being utilized on a regular basis. They are susceptible to like a chemical reaction as opposed to maybe a biological reaction. And then it begs the question, if you deal with acid, is acid better for a chemical reaction or a biological one?
It's all the same thing, right? I mean, the acid is still an element that comes naturally from the ground, and it's just whatever form. It's going to affect pH mostly, and pH dictates how much of any nutrient is allowed to be in a concentrated space. So, if your pH is lower at 6 compared to 8, it's going to affect how the nitrogen breaks down. It's going to affect how the phosphates process. It's going to affect all of your metals, heavy metals, and how you detect how detectable they are. Not that they're moving or going anywhere. But I would assume, just from my chemical knowledge, I would assume that it wouldn't be an option, but.
Okay.
And if the newer wells that were put in are PVC, wells. But that
Yeah, and we
probably
got a mix
wasn't
match.
that wasn't an option back when these were originally put in.
And we got a mixed bunch there too. So that's something else that depending on which one is what the option for it is too. So
I would suggest, just from a personal opinion, that in general, I would prefer to see a modern well put in as opposed to trying to rehabilitate one of the old
I mean,
galvanized iron.
they're all it's still the same technology. They drill a hole, they pump it full of a liquid solution that helps to solidify the ground. They pull their drill out, they slide a casing down. I mean, it's nothing's really changed in the last even 100 years as far as that goes. It's the same exact process.
Other than the PVC casing.
Yeah, materials. Yep.
But why not upgrade if the cost of yanking that out and putting it back in? Why not try to at least look at the cost of the PVC and cap the old wells if you can? I don't know what Eggle says, but
Yeah,
if you-
that's gonna be when we start drilling new wells where they get involved, and that would be in Lansing. And I hate to
I got you. All right.
bring
Well,
this up and down to Lansing if we don't have to.
Live on YouTube, Steve. Anybody else got any questions on that? Okay. To cap off what Steve said, the aerators are back in. We put our the second of the two back in yesterday actually, and started them all up. The first one went in last week, which we gave EGLE as part of our response a date of September 1st. So this week we're actually going to be putting together a response to say that we got the aerators in and they're now properly running. We had one that needed some extra parts upon reinstallation, so we had to get all that together. And that was just a hardware run that wasn't too bad. The Nova filter, like Steve said, is ordered and on the way. We're at the will of the world on that one. I believe that's being delivered down to our Rockford base, and then they're going to bring it up with them. Steve, is that correct?
I believe that's what.
Okay. Our pilot study, it's back on the front burner, and I had a little dealings for about a month there with Honeywell trying to get the correct software in place, yada yada. It's now done and completed, and then there's actually a very expensive 12-inch cord that I had to order as well. I'm waiting on that to get here, and then it's a matter of ordering the chemicals and getting them installed to do the test. I expect that within the next probably 6 weeks, give or take. Let's see, we had 6 call outs to add into Steve. I was pretty relieved in the last few weeks as well. Some nuisance stuff that really didn't make the record books. I did have most recent odor complaint was on the second and third. One was one was just a matter of resealing the lid that just had a bad seal. The rubbers go bad, bolts loosen. The other one was 309, which I do want to make an extra comment on here. That was a residence right on the lakeside next to the harbor. He had, I made a few visits there this year. Originally he had a tangled float, and then I came back and he had or it wasn't even on, and then he had a tangled float, and then he had some landscaping done, and they had a piece of equipment roll over it, which I also think went to damage the underground cable, because that's where we're at right now. So I replaced temporarily a couple floats, and right now the cabling that goes under the ground is bypassed with cabling that I buried an inch underneath the ground and through the flower bed and so on. So it looks really good, but it's a rental property, and we're working with him to basically after season. I think this week actually is his last rental, so we're going to try to get back there and dig it up and fix it properly. But as of right now, it's running at 100%. Kind of want to throw that out there for you too, Steve, so you help remind me if I don't get a phone call. All the other numbers looked pretty good down the board as far as electric, Barrick. Haven't used any propane yet, which I assume we'll probably be using here shortly. Influent and effluent numbers are pretty constant. We are on the downcline of influent. Probably after this weekend, I see a steep decline. Effluent, like Steve said, I can't express enough how much the improvements we've made to that PLC have helped in assisting us keep solid numbers that through this phosphorus and the biofilter and all the problems we're experiencing has at least been a godsend in that to keep something on track for normal, which is the most important thing that we report to the state. So I do want to sing praise on that. Other than that, I think that pretty much sums up what I got to say. Anybody got any questions on it?
I'm going to cover the phosphorus issue now.
All righty.
Okay.
Steve?
Yeah, so, late July, and what prompted this is we had to notify Eagle, and excuse me if I say DEQ, because I still call them DEQ. We had to inform Eagle that we exceeded our discharge for a few days in late July. And then we talked to them about the phosphorus levels. So that in response, we got a email from Barry Christian, our Eagle overseer. And he asked us 6 questions, which I sent them to you, and asked for a response by August 14th. And they were good questions, just, and if you remember, I think it was 2017, 18, we had pretty much the same questions. They want to make sure that our phosphorus we're getting that under control and that we're heading in the right direction, because the system has been exceeding phosphorus since like 2011, 2012, but it's getting better. And this, in my opinion, and in talking, this was a just another update on where we're at on solving that, and if we still think we're in the right direction. So Sierra and David from IAI took the lead. They talked with me, they talked with the engineer, and came up with a response to their questions, which is a very good report. I think they addressed everything. And it had to do with the reason we're seeing high phosphorus in the summers are, number one, it always is a little bit higher in the summer than it is in the winter. Number two, the biofilter is out of service. Number three, the aerators are under repair. And number four is the lagoon is getting to the point where it needs to be pumped. And that's where I had a revelation after talking with them. And I think I'll try to explain it the best I can as a layman, because I'm not a chemist. So every day we get phosphorus comes in to our plant from the community. So many pounds of phosphorus comes in every day. Every day, a little bit of it goes out of the drain field but not much, because not as much as was before, because we're treating it. But so the question is, what happens to the phosphorus with the amount that comes in and the amount that we discharge? Well, it goes in the lagoon. And I was kind of naive that, because we're treating it with ferric chloride, right? When it comes in, we inject ferric chloride. And I thought, well, the phosphorus disappears. But that's not what actually is happening. It's precipitating out, chemical reaction, and it's sludge and it's going to the lagoon. So the phosphorus is still there. It's doesn't go away. And I guess matter is never created or destroyed. It's there. It's just where it goes and where it stays. So our lagoon is in the sludge has a lot of phosphorus in it, and it's just sitting on the bottom. In the summertime with high flows, it gets stirred up and enters the effluent. And so that's part of the reason.
Can I add in there, Steve?
Go ahead.
Can I add in there?
Yeah.
So it's actually, I mean, that's the design. So the idea of the wastewater plan is to process and put back into the environment what we select. And that's why every wastewater plant has different restrictions, because they're taking in different things, and where they put the output has different restrictions, whether it's here, Ludington or Grayling or Detroit, there's different restrictions, right? So the actual setup of what we're doing is to collect all these excess nutrients as much as possible. Ideally, we wouldn't put any phosphorus or any nitrogen or anything else back into the ground if we can keep it. So the idea of holding on to it is the intentional design of this plant. Collect it, it creates a sludge, and then we dispose of the sludge every 20 years when we clean out the plant. Other plants are designed differently. The one in Traverse City is more efficient. What they do is they collect everything. Same thing with the sludge, but instead of having it build and build and build, their design is to excrete it into a chunk and hauled away to the landfill, where it's controlled in a different environment to get rid of there. So it's just by design, we're actually doing the correct job. It's just, 30 years instead of 20 years since clean out. So that's where we're at. We have more than necessary.
So again, I think, or David, have we heard, I haven't seen any response back from Barry since the 14th. Have you heard anything?
Sierra and I was just talking about that yesterday. He made a trip up and he asked me if I had gotten a response. I said, no, I haven't. I'll ask Steve tomorrow though.
No. So he must
no
be
news is good
satisfied.
news.
He's satisfied with these responses. I think with what we're doing, they got the aerators in. They're in service. They got the the biofilters on order, and we're making plans to get the lagoon pumped. So those are the three big things. Another factor is the duckweed, which is another cyclical reason. Duckweed actually takes in phosphorus for a while, but then it dies and it goes down into the sludge. So it's not helping. It's not really helping, but that's something that's on our future list that we're going to look at ways to control the duckweed. We decided that this year was not the good time to do it because it is going to get pumped next year, but that's another factor in our future plans of maybe getting rid of that.
After educating myself more on that, Steve, it's actually a beneficial to our setup. It's just we got to mitigate how much is in the pond because it does consume phosphorus.
Right.
And during the summer when it's growing, and then in the winter, our problem is it dies and precipitates, which facilitates more growth next spring when it pops back up.
Right.
So what we do is just limit how we want to keep a little bit to absorb the phosphorus. We just need to filter screen it out though. And that'll be actually beneficial to the whole treatment process to allow that to happen.
Right. So again, I think we haven't heard anything. This was a very good response from IAI. Have not heard anything. So I think we're in the steps that IAI outlined are being followed here, that they would get the aerators, they would the biofilters on the way, and gonna get the lagoon pump next year. So I think we're in good shape.
Best time frame to pump the lagoon, is there certain parameters that you're looking for, or do you look at the height of lagoon, or is it best just to be proactive and pump every 5 years or every 7 years or every 10 years?
I
There's-
think that's a good question, and I think the right answer is it's probably gonna have to be not every 30 years.
It's based
So-
on flow and
Yeah.
you gotta monitor to see where you are. If you got heavier consumption or if you have heavier deposits, it could shorten or gain 5 years. So 15 to 20 years is a good rule of thumb.
But
We've never done-
we can't do it during the, so what the plan is during, we're gonna discharge as much as we can, as we're allowed to do, get that lagoon down. Cause the lower the lagoon is, the less expensive it is to pump, because we pay by the gallon. And then it can't be done in the winter, so hopefully if we don't have a real late winter, it can be done in March or April. And, or maybe we'll decide to do it. Our flows, actually the lagoon keeps going down into May and June. So that may be that's one of the things we'll make that decision on, but we want the lagoon relatively low without being too low. And because that'll save us some money, and it can't be done in the winter time.
So they're gonna remove gallons no matter what, and they obviously have a capacity per truck. So what we wanna do is lower the water level, and essentially what we're doing by doing that is making a heavier concentration of what we're actually pumping out. So we're not wasting our gallons with clean water. We wanna concentrate it all down to that sludge and that muck and that nasty and get that out and pay for that by the gallon.
Did
Um,
you,
yep.
did you say that you can pump in the winter or you can't pump? in the winter?
Cannot, no.
It's getting,
It's-
it's gonna
it's
be
not- we could-
landed.
You can pump in the winter, but they can't dispose of it. So
Yeah.
they're
Oh.
not gonna do it if they can't dispose of it.
They're spraying it on fields and taking it to the landfill, and
Okay, thank you.
So I got a question. Is that okay? What impact will the biofilter have on this?
so
Will they bring it back down where it's acceptable?
so the biofilter was installed in 2014 or 13, amongst those times there, alongside, excuse me, alongside of the addition of adding ferric chloride. So the ferric chloride is collecting nutrients and precipitating them to sludge. If we didn't have a screen after that process, then it would just go to the drain field, and the purpose of adding the ferric is useless. So what we do is we collect the sludge that we create, send it back to the holding tank, which is the lagoon.
But will the biofilter, how much will it help this issue?
It's substantially.
It's out of surface. So will that get
Substantially
you to
different.
Will things be acceptable then?
Among the other two items, yes.
And
It's
then
a,
if-
it's a kind of, go ahead.
If you repair the aerators and get the biofilter running again, will that bring us down even more?
Yeah, so you got to add oxygen as part of the process in the lagoon, and that facilitates the process of breaking all these things down and creating the sludge mass. And it's basically a closed loop. So we allow water to come from this, which is a reaction tank. The lagoon is, think of it that way, where everything's reacting. The oxygen's coming into contact. We're getting mixing that's causing the bugs to facilitate that breakdown into sludge, which is our goal, to make sludge. And then that water flows in some form of concentration into the plant, and we treat it. We add ferric. We filter out the sludge we make from the ferric. And then most of that goes out to the drain beds as processed water. The sludge that we collect from the filter goes back up to the lagoon to react and come back as a process. So we're
I just-
reprocessing the water.
Are these, the timing on these two things? That's all I was kind of asking. When are they gonna be back up?
The
and running?
the aerator's already done.
Okay,
And the filter, as soon as it gets here, which we're hoping by October 1st,
okay.
then that'll be done short. I know it's on their priority list that when it's delivered, it's gonna get put in. And I don't think it's a long process, is it, David, to install
It
that?
No, it should be a day max cleanup on an extra day, but
Okay.
But one of the other ironic things is, so the biofilter separates sludge out of the waste stream that's going to the drain field. But where does it go? The sludge gets pumped back up in the lagoon. So we're basically recycling phosphorus, and that's one of the things we got a little chuckle about is we're not getting rid of anything. We're just recycling it and moving it from one place to the other.
So I have two comments real quickly. As we draw down the lagoon, we're going to concentrate the water. We're going to have a harder time treating it. It'll be a small issue because we'll be off season.
Right.
So, but that will be a small problem there. The key here is that I think we've known the solutions here, and we're not reacting to this problem. We've been proactive in planning for this problem. And I think the key is to remove that phosphorus. I think tomorrow or next summer, we may be really surprised at how little ferric chloride we actually need, because we'll have a clean lagoon.
correct.
And
And-
that will all be a very interesting situation. So I'm looking forward to getting rid of that sludge, which is the key. We're just concentrating that sludge more and more, and it's time to get rid of it. And
Keep in mind that at this point right now, we've had our lagoon is full. So it's at its highest level, right? So we got all the water in there and all the sludge has been in there. And our goal, like we discussed, is to get it as low as possible until it's pumped out, which there's no time in there where we're going to gain more water. We're pretty much there right now and we're on the decline. So from now until we get it cleaned out, our numbers are going to look terrible because we're literally making them terrible. We're concentrating the numbers, and the numbers we're taking, this 9.89 from last month for total phosphorus, that's milligrams per liter. So it's a ratio measurement. So as we decrease the water and process more throughout the winter and we're not receiving more, our phosphorus levels are going to go up in that smaller concentration. So expect that, keep that in your mind, that's our goal.
yeah, it's not your fault.
Right.
I appreciate the report. Does anyone have any other questions for either Steve or
Dave,
Dave?
Thank you.
Sewer Dave. That's what I've got around town now.
All right. Nothing?
No, not for me.
Is there any other business for the commission? I've made my comments. I really don't like Zoom meetings, but I guess we're going to keep doing Zoom meetings for the foreseeable future. We will take any public comment if anyone has joined us.
Can I make mention there? Is Susan still on for moderating this, or? I
Yeah.
just noticed this live on YouTube up here, and just to make note, alongside of anybody being on the video or over their phone, if we're live on YouTube, I don't know why we are or for what reason, but if that's part of this process, there is a live stream that's happening there that people have an option to comment on a different platform than what we're on.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm testing the live on YouTube because I've never done it before. So it's live on YouTube, but nobody knows how to watch it. Has not been publicized. I'm actually gonna tune in. I wanted to watch it while we were on, but I had two different things going on at the same time. So that'll be Yeah, it's some point, because this format can handle 100 people tuning in. We had 51 at one of our town board meetings, which I was very happy that my computer didn't crash with that many people. But so this is another way to let the public see this. And I think that then this will be available for people to watch at a later date. And it's also should be closed captioning with artificial intelligence. So we'll see how that works. But
Yeah, so there's two things there. You have to actually release the live as a separate video, so make sure you follow up on that.
okay.
Because this will stay live and then they can't see it.
Right.
But two, I would recommend either having somebody watch that, which is an obstacle, and then actually relay what's happening on that feed, or just make it live with no comments, and then they can comment on the one that you publish afterwards. And then we can cover that on the next month, perhaps.
Right. Okay.
Is there any way to have them comment just by asking comments or?
I can jump on my phone right now and jump on this YouTube and watch us just like we are now and make a comment on my phone or whatever device.
But that would show up on YouTube and we wouldn't,
And
it
not
wouldn't
here.
work as public comment because we wouldn't actually hear it.
Correct.
But we could have someone monitoring responses on YouTube
Yes.
and then bringing it to our attention.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, all of these things, the obstacle I get to, we actually went to a sound company and tried to find out what it would take to outfit the Monarchy room so that we could have Zoom meetings there, have our meetings. Yeah, that's it. It's not just the hardware, but then you get to the point where you have to have somebody who is your tech guy at each meeting. And that was,
I beg you this to think about. What is it worth for participation levels? There's a lot of cool things, but these IT guys, especially now, are making a killing off of essentially facilitating people that don't want to learn. I mean, or don't have the time or capability and or financial means, people make a living off of doing this. So I caution you not to fall too far down the rabbit hole. If something works, I suggest to keep it as simple as possible within reason.
Yeah. Well, we want to keep pushing the envelope and figure out how much we can actually do without paying somebody $150 an hour to watch one of these meetings. And so
you got questions, let me know.
What level do we have to get to have our normal meetings again?
it's
a political question, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
it comes, I believe right now we're limited to 10 people in an indoor meeting. It might be 25. The problem is once you get to number 11, then what do you do? Because you can't have a meeting that some people can attend and some people cannot. So then do you shut down the meeting?
I know where you're going with
MTA
that.
says you shut down when the 11th person, you have to end your meeting. That's what
Yeah.
they suggest.
So
Yeah.
it's going to go by the room though, when you think about it, common sense, right? So whether we could all show up right now today and get together and have this meeting, we'd still have to record it for other people to attend over top of that 10th person.
So I'm just saying, what level do we have to get to?
Room capacity is what I would say. How many can we fit legally by the fire marshal in that building? And then whatever that number is, if the government says we can have that many people in the building, then we can do it in person, right?
Well, right now
Otherwise,
the limit is 10 right now, period,
Right.
whether you're in a gymnasium or not.
Mhm.
right, that's my point. But the gymnasium has a higher capacity than the back boardroom.
Right. Either way, we're not there yet. We're
Right.
doing Zoom for a while more,
And we'll wait for the state guidance on that.
yes. I mean,
Right, that's what I was asking.
there are some townships that are pushing the envelope. I know Bingham is meeting the meeting in person, but then putting it out on Zoom. Is that correct, Steve?
Yep, and it's worked because not everybody at the their board level has Zoom capability. So yes,
Yeah,
the meeting location's not even published. It's just the board and staff are at the office meeting, and it's broadcast live on YouTube, and all of the public comment is.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's my son-in-law, Jordan, that's making that.
Oh,
happen.
Jordan's your son-in-law? He's amazing. I
Yeah,
tried to get him to do other townships and he's so busy.
I mean,
Oh,
there's a
he's-
cost to that though.
yeah. Well, and he's doing it real cheap because Bingham is his home.
Right.
And, you know, and I told him, if you go out someplace else, don't charge him $18 an hour, which
Exactly.
is what he's charging him.
Exactly.
Oh,
then you
he's
gotta have the
a good
equipment.
kid. He's a great kid.
Has he been talking to you about starting a new business?
No, I didn't know that.
He wants to start a pumping business.
Oh,
I know a guy.
Ooh, we
Yeah.
need more puppers.
Yes.
well, I saw him last
But go-
night. I saw him last night and I would have put a bug in his ear because I would encourage him.
Well, that may be of conflict of interest for me, but we really need somebody like that. And he grew up in that business. So there you go.
Right. Is there a no compete thing with his dad though?
He's working that through. He's my younger brother is a business consultant and they're going through the numbers and we'll figure
Okay.
that out.
Well, that's good. That's the best news I've heard today so far.
Anyway.
Yep.
Okay,
Any
that's
other-
all I got.
Competition is good.
Any other comments?
Steve, Dave, Shirley, great job as usual.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Nobody commented on where I'm sitting today.
I like,
Is that
I
Very
know that-
beautiful.
is that a
It's
drain
that the
field?
trees are starting to turn. That's a little,
Yeah.
Dave, is that a drain field?
That's our drain field. Yep.
Okay, good.
if you
Last,
see a geyser coming up in the background, we got problems.
that's the wonder of virtual backgrounds. You can snap a picture on a good day.
Yeah,
Figured it's better than my fridge and microwave. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen those clouds move, so you're right. It could be he could be sitting at Dick's.
All right, next month, the meeting was scheduled October 2nd. We're gonna meet October 2nd, period.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I Zoom, 10
I will
o'clock. Any questions?
I will throw in a caveat that I will be present, even though it may not be myself.
Yeah.
I got about a month of time that I really need to take off, and I just can't find the time for it. So
It's hunting
Well-
season too, right?
no, I plan on working for that. There's a lot of deer there at the plant.
Terrific.
Thank you, folks.
Anything
Thanks,
else?
everybody.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
I'd
Bye.
like a motion
guys.
to adjourn, please.
Oh yeah.
So moved. Shirley?
Thank you.
Is there a second?
I second.
That's Frank.
Yep,
Sure.
Frank seconds.
Shirley, yes or no?
Yes.
Richard, yes or no?
Yes.
Frank, yes or no?
Yes, yes,
Jim says yes, so we can all go.
okay,
Hooray, hooray.
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you.
Have a great
Thank you.
weekend.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.